So I already did this video, but apparently I had too much stuff on my computer, so I have to do this whole video again. So let's just get right into it. Hey bookaholics, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. So I absolutely loved this novel. It was so good. The #1 book that people have to read this year because it has such a good message. People who really need to read it, especially younger people, because it's such an important book to read in our time. It deals with so many things that are going on right now, dealing with police and Black people and oppressed people, and it's just something that really needs to be read and really needs to be acknowledged in our time. This book follows Star Carter, who moves between two worlds, so her one world in the poor community and her other world in a prep school. She moves between these so much that she feels like she doesn't really have an identity because she can't be her whole self in either world. This balance between her two worlds is actually shattered when her childhood friend is fatally shot by a police officer. His death makes national headlines, and after these national headlines are started, her community becomes like a war zone with riots and protesting. All the people in the world just wanting to know what the truth is, and the only person who does is Star. She is tug-of-war between her desire to say something but also her desire to be quiet because she's scared of what will happen after she tells what actually happened, and Star is scared of what she says because what she does say or what she does not say can really make or break the case for Khalil, but also can endanger a life. It's such a good book. I love it so much. And before we get into the spoiler section, I just really want to talk about this cover. So this cover is gorgeous. I love how Star is right in the middle and is surrounded by white, because that is such a symbol for Black people being oppressed by the white. So it either be that she's oppressed, but also can be shown that she is fighting, especially with her holding the Hate U Give in white with Black and her being surrounded by Black is just very symbolic for their hope. I really liked how they chose this to be the cover. It's very symbolic. I like it. So that is all I'm going to say in the non-spoiler section. So if you haven't gone to read this yet, go read it because I highly recommend it. It's such a good read to read in 2017. It's going to be the highlight of this year, I feel like. So if you haven't read it yet, go read it and then come back and we can discuss it. Bye non-spoiler people. Bye! This book opens at a party that Star is kind of dragged to by her friend Kenya. At this party, she really doesn't feel like she belongs. In her neighborhood, she is identified as Big Mac's daughter who works at the grocery store. She feels like she doesn't belong in either world. In her one world, the prep school, she has friends where she doesn't actually open up her whole world to them. She speaks in a certain way, she acts in a certain way. In the poor community, she also kind of separates herself from other people because she feels like she doesn't quite belong there either. Her identity is just like all over the place. It's not quite her in either place, and I feel like that is showed in this first scene where she's at this party and only knows Kenya, who she only has a connection with because Kenya is her brother's sister as well. It just shows how even though she's in her neighborhood, she doesn't really feel like she belongs, and that really shows here. This is also the scene where we are introduced to Khalil, who is Star's childhood best friend. We kind of have this hint that Khalil might have gotten himself into a dangerous spot with King, the gang leader. Star is very scared for him. She is very angry at herself because she wasn't there to stay with Khalil and try to convince him not to go into drug dealing. In this scene, they're kind of just catching up. And then at the party, a shooting happens. We end up learning that it is Devontae's brother who was shot. Star and Khalil leave, and this is when the THUG acronym comes in. So I really like the acronym that comes in. So it's Thug Life, The Hate U Give, Little Infants, Everybody. And I loved this acronym because when described more fully by Khalil and then later by Mav encouraging Star to really delve into what it means, it really puts in perspective that thug life is not a choice. In Khalil's description, he says it means what society gives us as youth. It bites them in the ass when we wild out. Pretty much, it's just that society isn't giving infants a real big chance. They're put into schools that don't get much of a chance to get an education. They are thrust into the awful world where it's hard to get a job. It's hard to really keep a steady job where you're making money to provide for your family without getting a good education, without getting into college or anything like that, and they are thrust into the only choice they have, which is drug dealing and being a thug. That is kind of what that delves into, and it kind of delves into more when Star is talking about it to her daddy Mav. I really liked how this thug life acronym comes in at 2 points. 1 point before Khalil is shot, which is kind of how this thug life really starts making a impression on Star, and then later on when Star and her father are talking about Tupac and eventually talk about the thug life. I really like how Mav really helps her delve in, which is actually what leads her to realizing that in order for society to change, it's to not be silent. So when she's starting to really delve into what this thug life means, this is what she says. Everyone's pissed because 115 hasn't been charged, but also because it's not the first one to do something like this and get away with it. It's been happening, and people will keep writing until it changes. So I guess the system's still giving hate, and everybody's still getting My girl, watch your mouth, but yeah, that's about right. And we won't stop getting till it changes. That's the key. It's gotta change. That's why people are speaking out, huh? Because it won't change if we don't say something. Exactly. We can't be silent. So I can't be silent. So I can't be silent is one of the more stronger one-lines in this whole novel, because it's when Star realizes that I have to say something, I have to speak out for Khalil, or else nothing will change. And I really loved how it all came about because of Thug Life, which is introduced in the second chapter of this novel when Khalil is still alive and they're talking about it. So kind of like Khalil was helping himself by talking about Thug Life just before the police stopped him. I just love that connection that comes out there, and how that is what convinces Star to really like, okay, I need to speak out. I need to talk about this, because if I don't, Khalil won't get his justice. I really like that. When I started reading this, I finished the first chapter, and I was so scared to get to the second chapter because I knew what was going to happen. Put it down for a little bit and then picked it up just like a half an hour later. I was like, okay, I gotta do this. So I read it, and I could literally feel this fear that Star was feeling in that moment. Like, I will never truly understand what Black people feel when they're stopped by police, and I'll never understand that, but I really empathize with them. It's really unfair that they get treated differently just because of their skin and where they live. One of the things that really hit me in this novel is when Star is doing her news interview. What she says when she's talking about 115, the police officers that stopped Khalil, was, this all happened because he assumed that we were up to no good, because we're Black and because where we live. We were just two kids minding our business, you know? His assumption killed Khalil. It could have killed me. It just really hit home that what the society portrays of Black people is what helps other people who are ignorant assume that all Black people are like that, and they just assume that, and police are doing that all the time. They just assume, and that is what killed Khalil. I really felt like that line really hit home. Also like that she was part of two worlds. So she's part of the poor community she lives in, and also part of the prep school that she goes to. So in both worlds, she cannot truly be herself. In her home, she's really just seen as the Big Mav's daughter who works at the store. She feels like she really can't share her other world, the prep school, with her other friends like Kenya, and she can't share her friends in the poor community with her friends from prep school. So she's really torn between these two worlds and feels like she can't really be herself in either one. For example, when she's at her prep school, she prevents herself from speaking in a certain way or doing certain things or keeping certain aspects of her life away from her friends in prep school, and the only real person that she can be herself with is Chris. I really loved her relationship with Chris. I found it so cute. She shares mostly everything with Chris about herself, besides like her father, because she's scared of how her father would react to her having a white boyfriend, but also that after her Khalil's death, she's afraid to share that part of herself after the fact. She really doesn't want to share Khalil's death with anyone, not her friends, not her boyfriend, not her teachers, because she's scared that they'll treat her differently because Khalil had been labeled as a suspected drug dealer, and that is all they'll see of him, but also that's all they're going to see of her now. So she wants to keep that away from who she is. That kind of really hurts her, and eventually she realizes that she can't be silent, she can't like hide who she is, and she eventually learns. But during that time, she's convinced that she can't share that aspect of her life, and I'm glad eventually she's not afraid to share her whole self. But I really like that she's able to share most of herself with Chris, and that's kind of how they develop a relationship, and he's like the one person she can be herself with. Closer to the end, her two worlds actually collide at Seven's birthday party when Kenya, Maya, Chris, and Devante all are sitting together and talking. It's like the first time that Maya meets Kenya and Kenya meets Maya. So this is what she says after they develop a acquaintanceship, which can develop to a friendship eventually. So she says, "My two worlds just collided. Surprisingly, everything's alright. So I just like how finally her two worlds collided and she can finally be herself, all because she's no longer silent, not just about Khalil, but because of her opening up about Khalil, she's able to open up herself to both of her worlds. So I really like that. I also really love the family aspects within this novel. Oh my god, it was so cute. One part that I really loved in like a kind of family dynamic. So Seven and Star just snuck out of the house after a big riot happened the night before, and they sneak out of the house to go play basketball. And as they're playing, their father drives up in a Tahoe and start yelling at them through the window about sneaking off, and it's just so funny. It's just so cute, and I loved it so much. People who are around them are just laughing at them, and they're just so embarrassed and ashamed. And when they even get home, their mom yells at them too, and it's just so funny. It was so good. I loved it so much. I also love Maverick and Lisa's relationship. They are so adorable. I actually really loved after one of their fights and Star is looking at them through the door to their bedroom. She's like, they're my OTP, they're my one true pairing. So they argue a lot. One of their big arguments that they have is about Lisa wanting to move her family out of Garden Heights and Maverick wanting to stay because he feels like if they move, they'd be betraying the community. He eventually gets on board because of Star's segment on national news, and King's threat really becomes real towards Star and their family. But before that, they're still arguing about it. I believe one of these arguments ended with Lisa going to the room and closing the door, and then Maverick eventually gets grapes out of the fridge, goes to the room, and kind of asks for forgiveness. And one of Lisa's way of asking for forgiveness is like, give me a grape. And then they kind of just like laugh, they smile at each other, and it's just so cute. I love it. One of the playful fights I really liked between Maverick and Lisa was after they go looking at houses. They come back, explain that they're thinking of moving to another place. Maverick prays over the food, and Lisa kind of gives her own little 2 cents of a prayer. So Lisa says, I have something to add. Lord, bless my mom, and thank you that she went into her retirement fund and gave us the money for the down payment. Help us turn the basement into a suite so she can stay here sometimes. No, Lord, Daddy says. Yes, Lord, says Mama. No, Lord. Yes. No. Amen. Oh my god, I love it so much because Maverick just does not like her mom and her mom does not like Maverick, and it's just so cute. I also love how protective Seven is towards his siblings. So like Kenya and Lyric, he's so protective of them from their dad and also sometimes even their mom, and I just love how he's so committed to it that he's like, I'm just gonna go to community college just outside of Garden Heights. I'm gonna watch over them, make sure they're all safe. I really did like Maverick's argument towards it. Is like, they are not your responsibility, they are responsibility of their parents. You should not be putting that pressure on yourself. And I just loved how real it is, because any brother who thinks that their siblings are in trouble, they would try everything to make sure they're safe. And I really liked how protective Seven was towards his 2 sisters, Kenya and Lyric. He's also really protective of Star. So one of the times is when Haley and Star were having a very big argument, confrontation at school, and they kind of get into a fight. And then Haley's brother comes in, but then Star's brother comes in and fights him. I just love how protective he is of his siblings. And also I really like when they're at the prom and Chris and Star were talking about what was going on, why Chris was really ignoring her and not talking, and they kind of make up and they're making out in the car, and Seven comes and knocks on the window and is like, what are you doing? Get out. I just love it. I love how protective he is. I just like it. Also love how Maverick has this big desire for his children to finish high school and get into college. I really liked when Seven graduates and Maverick cries. I think Star was watching, was like, he never cries, but he was crying there, and I really liked it. It was such a emotional moment and such a human moment. I really liked how all these different feelings and all these different aspects that were like this big thing that happened with Khalil, but there's still life going on, still graduating, there's still needing to be family, need to be close together, and I really like how all that aspect was in this book as well. And even like outside of the Carter families, when Seven is told that Devontae was jumped by King and his followers, they come to King's house to rescue him. Seven mom kind of catches them and then tells them to take Devontae, take Kenya and Lyric, and get out. At first Seven doesn't really get it, but eventually they do. She was protecting us, she was making sure that we weren't hurt by King, but that the one person who was left was her. And when he realized that, he's like, does a U-turn, is gonna go back for his mom. Eventually they convince him not to. She is protecting them from being hurt by King. So I really like that even though Seven's mom isn't presented as a great mother or a great even person, she does have her good qualities where she wants to protect her kids. So I really like that was inserted into this book before the book ended. I really like that. There's one character I was not a fan of, and that was Haley. I really did not like her. Like, maybe if Star and Maya would have confronted her a little earlier in middle school about what she's saying is so wrong that she needs to realize, but they never did. They were kind of just like the followers of Haley, and eventually they do confront her, and that's kind of when it's revealed that Haley is just so ignorant and does not want to change. I feel like that is the worst. Is like, if you're ignorant, learn, like actually pick up a book and learn what is going on, why you shouldn't be doing this, get into other person's perspective. But I really do not care for people who are ignorant, who do not want to change, don't even try to change. Those are the ones that really, really annoy me, and I really did not care for Haley because she didn't want to try. She really didn't want to understand why Star and Maya were hurt by her words. She didn't even want to try to understand why Maya was hurt by her words when she asked Maya if her family ate cats during Thanksgiving. She didn't understand. She just thought it was a joke. She didn't understand her words could hurt when she was suggesting that Khalil had it coming. She just didn't want to try to understand, and she just ignored it and tried to make her words into a joke. That really hurt her friendship with those two, and I'm really happy that at the end she was able to cut that friendship off, because that was not a healthy relationship, and I have no idea if Haley would have changed anyways. So I'm glad Star was able to confront that, and it was finally like, we can never go back to the way we were before. So one of the cute parts in this one is when French Prince is introduced in the novel. So I loved it. I loved how Chris and Star were able to connect to each other through the Fresh Prince, because Star really can relate to Will, because she's in two different worlds and can experience both of them, which Will was able to do as well. I really liked when we were first introduced to Chris, after we learned that they had a fight, he apologizes by singing the theme song of the French Prince to her, and then again he sings it to her at the prom after they work out their issues with each other, and it's just so cute. I loved it so much. So this is after when they rescue Devante from King's house, is when they hear over the radio that the police officer 115 was indicted. At this moment they are at Kenya and Lyric's grandma's house, and Seven kind of looks over at Star in the back and asks, what do you want to do? And at this moment Star is just angry because she did everything right. She did everything right. She told the truth. She went on national TV. She even went against King, and it all just came out as nothing. The police officer got off easy. So she just desires to do something. So Devante, Chris, Star, and Seven go to this group of people who are at the scene. I can't remember exactly what setting it was, but they join this big group, which turns into a riot. And this was one of the most intense moments of this book. I could just picture in my mind of everyone just being in that group and all shouting the police, and then fire happens on places that are not black owned. The SWAT police come in, and it's just such an intense moment. I could just see it in my mind. I was also very scared because it was like police coming in, the fire happening, people looting, and I was like, oh my god, Star, Chris, Seven, and Devante, get out of there. Oh my god, I was so scared for them. I was like, please don't let any of them be hurt, because I can't handle another death. I can't. Then they come across more of a peaceful protest where Star's attorney, Miss Ufra, is running. I was so proud of Star in this scene because she joined in, she got on top of the roof of the car, takes the boom horn, and speaks. Like, she just talks. She, like, goes against the police, doesn't care the police are there, trying to get them to stop. She speaks out, and I was so proud. She was no longer silent. She was ready to speak and really commit to this cause and be a part of this change. So I'm really proud that she was able to join that. I also really loved when the police threw that stink bomb or whatever it was. She jumped off the car, grabbed it, and threw it back at them. Oh my god, I love that scene. I can't wait to see the movie. I really hope they do it justice. This whole book, I hope they do justice, but those scenes, these last couple scenes in this novel, they have to be absolutely perfect, because they're absolutely perfect in here. It has to be perfect. Oh my god. It was so good. I loved when she just jumped down, grabbed the stink bomb, and threw it. It was like perfect. Such a strong moment, and I was just so proud of the woman that she's becoming, but also the activist she is becoming. Then, after the protests and that they all scatter, then they arrive at the grocery store, and King and his followers throw the freaking fire in it. Oh my god, I was so mad at him. Oh, it was such an intense scene because they were all just trying to get out, and the smoke, they were inhaling so much smoke. When Maverick finds them in the store where it's on fire, he's like trying to get it open. He's like, please God, please. And it's just such an intense moment. I was like, oh my god, get them out. I want them to get them out. And they finally did, but oh my god, it was such an intense and moving scene. I loved it. And then Mav snitches on King, and the whole community snitches on King. Oh my god, it was so good. I love the scene because this whole book has been like Star getting her own voice, no longer being silent, but also just like the whole community no longer being silent, and they're all joining together and like call out on King because King has really been hurting the community, and finally they all just join in and they snitch on King, and I just loved it so much. It was such a strong and emotional scene. I loved it so much. And then Devontae volunteers to be a witness, and like he's scared at first. He's like, make sure I'm protected. I'm not gonna say anything if I'm not protected. And they protected him, and I loved it so much. And even though at the end of the day Khalil didn't get his justice for his death helped start this snowball effect that eventually created change within Star, which then eventually created change in the community, and I just loved it so much. I don't think this book would be as strong if he did get justice, if the police officer was put in jail, because that doesn't happen often in the real world. I'm not happy that it happened, but I can understand that is what needs to happen because people need to open their eyes that this happens all the time. People need to realize that sometimes justice doesn't happen because of society itself. So I'm glad that it ended in this way where Khalil's death might not have got justice, but it started the snowball effect that helped create change. Now, the ending of this book. Oh my god. The ending is so beautiful. I love how it mentioned in the ending so many names of the victims just like Khalil. To be honest, I'm not even going to try to describe the ending because it's just so perfect and so beautiful. I'm just going to read what the ending is because, oh my god, it's so gorgeous. It's written so well. So this is how the book ends. Once upon a time, there was a hazel-eyed boy with dimples. I called him Khalil. The world called him a thug. He lived, but not nearly long enough, and for the rest of my life, I'll remember how he died. Fairy tale? No. But I'm not giving up on a better ending. It would be easy to quit if it was just about me, Khalil, that night, and that cop. It's about way more than that, though. It's about Seven, Sakani, Kenya, Devontae. It's also about Oscar, Ayana, Trayvon, Rakai, Michael, Eric, Tamir, John, Ezel, Sandra, Freddie, Alton, Philando. It's even about that little boy in 1955 who nobody recognized at first. Emmett. The messed up part? There's so many more. Yet I think it'll change one day. How? I don't know. When? I definitely don't know. Why? Because there will always be someone ready to fight. Maybe it's my turn. Others are fighting too, even in the garden, when sometimes it feels like there's not a lot worth fighting for. People are realizing and shouting and marching and demanding. They're not forgetting. I think that's the most important part. Khalil, I'll never forget. I'll never give up. I'll never be quiet. I promise. Oh my god, that ending is so beautiful. I love it. Like, it's written so well. I tear up, like, every time. Like, oh my god, it's such a great ending. Even though this book doesn't really end with a happy ending, it does end where there's change, where there's hope. Change will eventually come as long as people continue to fight. That is exactly what this book is doing. It may be fiction, but there's so much truth within the story. This book is fighting for a change that will eventually come. It is fighting with words. It is fighting by having a message, and it will continue to fight because there's always hope. So, that is my review of The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I love this so much. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. It's a book that everyone has to read because it just has such a great message. That is it for my video. Thank you so much for watching. Definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment for how you thought of the book. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Check out my other social accounts on my Facebook, Twitter, and Goodreads. I make a video every Thursday, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye!
Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel Air.